part of what makes Apple unique. It's unfortunate that they're unique, I think, in this way. Although tell me if I'm right about this. But their uniqueness is that they insist on customer delight on a regular basis in everything they do. And they're willing to spend money to achieve that. And whereas most companies are saying, I'm going to cut costs, I want to cut back on expenses, and therefore I'm going to find ways to make my team more efficient, but actually reduce the customer experience. Instead, Apple's like, okay, we're going to service Rick and his son and make sure they're happy. But that doesn't mean you necessarily solved your problem. That I don't know, doesn't mean you solved the problem today. It doesn't mean you bought a new phone that day. It just means you now become a loyal Apple customer. So a year from now, you might go buy another phone. They can't measure that back to that experience with that kid in the Apple store. At least I don't think they can. Maybe they can, but they probably can't measure that back to that great experience we had a year ago. But something has imbued the Apple organization with saying, we want absolute delight on everything we do in our devices itself and with the interactions that we have. And that will lead to this compounding effect of us actually having great margins instead of the alternative that most companies think about of like cutting costs to achieve margins.
Well, it's important to note that the concept of delight really needs to be rethought.
Oh, please, Nick. This is a key area for us. So why does it need to be rethought?
Because delight should come from your products and how people enjoy using them. But delight is not the right goal when it comes to serving people who have problems or issues. Before the book, The Effortless Experience, came out, we wrote a piece for Harvard Business Review called Stop Trying to Delight Your Customers. Because what we learned is the strategy of trying to delight people every time you have an interaction with them is bound to fail an overwhelming percentage of time. Customer expectations or creating delightful moments only occur at something like a 10 to 15% rate, which means 85% of time you're not delighting customers. But that's not what really matters when it comes to maintaining long-term loyalty. What you really need to do, again, is to have people leaving an experience feeling like, wow, that was way less of a hassle than I thought. That's different from delighting people. And so sometimes people would say, oh yeah, I remember that piece you did for HBR called Stop Delighting Your Customers. We never said that. We never said don't delight people. But what we learned is the strategy of feeling like you have to delight every customer in service interactions is bound to fail. The delight should come from what you do and what you make, not how you serve people. When you serve people with an effortless experience, they forget that the bad thing ever happened. They go right back to being the same loyal customer they ever were before, and that's what you want.
So once again, the key thing is in service, it should be about effortlessness. I want it to feel effortless. In your product, it should be delight. And the more delightful your product, the fewer service situations probably come up, of course. And that's where you just need to keep improving. I definitely know from my own experience, it's a really difficult nuance for people to understand. What are the best companies? How do they manage those pieces? Like what, as an entrepreneur, how do I make sure I'm getting a good balance between those two? Because sometimes, like, let's say your company's doing really well, you built a good product, people want to use it, but it's breaking all the time. And next thing you know, your focus is spending all of your time dealing with service issues and not enough time making the product more delightful. How do you try to balance that?
Well, one thing that a lot of companies could do a better job of is understanding that there's no such thing as a product failure. Now, what do I mean by that? Because in the mind of the customer, if the product fails, they reach out to the company, and then their future loyalty will be determined based on how the service team reacts to that failure. So ultimately, everything is a service issue, even a product failure. If something breaks, I'm not going to base my future loyalty based on the fact that the product breaks. It's that you didn't create an effortless experience for me to help me get my product back on track or to replace it. So ultimately, everything is filtered through the psychology of service.